Hello everyone and welcome to Whiskey Wednesday again. Today we're talking about Johnnie Walker Blue Label. Quite a regal looking bottle, can't really get away from it. Everyone who knows whiskey or has been drinking whiskey has either tried it, heard of it, given an opinion on it, or has certainly decided to put themselves on the side of loving or hating it. To summarise this quickly, because there's a lot to talk about this bottle, the brand as a whole was launched in 1992, so this bottle's been around on the planet for the same amount of time as I have. It's approaching 25 years, and as a result of that, it's gained, some would say infamy, and some would say just kind of the ultimate grandeur in all of whiskey. There's a copious amount of gold medals that's been awarded, and it only is comprised of 16 different whiskies, a combination of malt and grain whiskey. As we all know, it is a blend. Now, the man with the greatest surname in all of whiskey is called Dr. Jim Beveridge. He is the gentleman who actually creates this product with Johnnie Walker and Diageo, and uses everything from his whiskey, I've heard, as young as 7 to as old as 50. I can guarantee the older stock will probably be grain whiskey. It's a bit more affordable, and there's tons of old grain whiskey stock lying around Scotland, and it's nowhere near as expensive as old single malt. So we're talking at least 16 different whiskies, aging from 7 to 50. That's why there's no age statement on it. If it did, it'd say Johnnie Walker Blue Label 7-year-old, because you have to display the youngest whiskey in it as an age statement. And a lot of people get a bit annoyed if they were spending anywhere from 150 to 200 pounds on a bottle that said 7 years old on the front of it. So that's a brief history about it. It's one of only a couple of bottles in Scotland that has Her Majesty's Royal print on the front of it. It's because King George V, at some point before World War I, declared that all the royal houses should have Johnnie Walker in them. So every bottle of Johnnie Walker has this little royal seal on the top of it there. But that's kind of a summary of Blue Label, but the most important part is what does it taste like, and we will get onto that for you now. So we'll have a little smell first. You do have to inhale fairly deeply to get any sort of big smelling note off this. It is only 40% alcohol, so it's the bare minimum. It's a little bit exotic. It's got sort of elements of smoke running around it too, so I'm kind of getting so your typical Speyside flavours really. There's a bit of apple, there's a bit of pear, a kind of green orchid fruit. And there is some peated whiskey in this, some quite old peated whiskey from things like Talisker, Caol Ila and Lochnagar. So you do get a little bit of smoke, but kind of like sort of pouch tobacco kind of smell. It's quite sweet. So yeah, not a lot on the nose, but as a lot of people know about Blue Label, it's kind of all about the taste. So let's delve into that. I can pretty much guarantee you'll never try many blends that are literally as silky as that. It's almost like not drinking whiskey. It's some sort of other liquid that hasn't been discovered yet. It's super gentle. It's more gentle than any Irish whiskey, any other blended whiskey from Scotland, Ireland, Japan, America, whatever you can think of. And again, you could call it my young palate, but I don't get a lot of stuff actually on the actual mouth. Let's have another go. The finish brings out a little bit more smoke, and there's a bit of grain towards there too. You do get that typical Scottish grain flavour. And it tastes quite a lot of Talisker. It's kind of that salty, slightly savoury, meaty style going on with it. But it's very, very subtle. So there's not a huge amount goes on with it. And I tend to find that people who really, really enjoy drinking this whiskey as a little bit of a religion enjoy it purely because it is very, very, very soft. There's nothing wrong with it. It's an extremely well-made, well-balanced product. But it is more about kind of like an experience than it is about flavour. Which again, there's nothing wrong with, because there's other whiskies in the world that exist purely for the experience, things like Octomore from Bruichladdich. Obviously, this is the total antithesis of that, though. So, purely based on flavour, and we base things on price on this channel as well. This is £190 a bottle in this country, in the UK, and for the flavours that you get from it, as in something that you can drink every day, it's totally up there because it is very soft. Not all of us can afford to drink £200 whiskey every day. I believe for lesser money there are more flavorful products, but not necessarily something as luxurious. It's kind of like probably the best word to use for it. It just tastes like luxury. It just tastes soft and decadent and rich. It doesn't remind you of flavors. It reminds you of like silk and Egyptian cotton and all that kind of stuff. It's just very comfortable and warming. Purely based on that and flavors and what we can get from it, I'm only going to give it a 7. Which in my mind is quite a just score. I respect the history of it. I love Johnnie Walker as a brand. Black Label's a very important whiskey to me. Dr. Jim Beveridge is an amazing blender of whiskies. But in terms of if I think it's the best Johnnie Walker in the range, I don't think it is. I think there's cheaper ones which do more for a whiskey drinker. As an experience goes, it's awesome. You should all try it. But in terms of just giving it a flat rating, I think a 7 is fairly justified for what it is, especially when you consider that not everyone can afford it. And even you could argue that the people who can afford it all the time aren't necessarily looking for the greatest flavor experience. Sometimes people are just looking to show off a little bit. So there is kind of that too. So yeah, Johnnie Walker Blue Label gets a nice round 7 out of 10. Perfectly good score, it's a good drinker, but it's not the greatest flavor experience of your life. So there we go. That's Johnnie Walker Blue Label. This has been Whiskey Wednesday. We're still at the Whiskey Jar, and I will see you all next week. Thank you.